Welcome to the latest Total Football podcast. My name is Declan Hard and I'm joined by Andrew Conway.
Hello.
It's the last international break of 2017 and the last few places are to be filled before a long stretch of club football ahead of us. When the story of a crowd of rowdy men in green of ages ranging from 5 to 65 cheering enthusiastically as an embarrassed sales assistant makes a sale at a boutique Victoria Secret store in the centre of Copenhagen makes more news headlines than the football match they were there to see, you know it wasn't a vintage game.
Yeah, so that's not a great start to the playoffs for the Republic of Ireland or Denmark. Teams that were, both of them were relatively confident going into this match that they could perform, and neither of them really did. Denmark probably played more football on the night than Ireland, but they had more possession, more shots. They were closer to scoring goals, but both teams... I saw a tweet while the match was on that, maybe this is an argument for the reduced inclusion of European teams going forward in the World Cups, like a less proportion from Europe, because neither of these teams seemed, able to play football. They had nice kits. That was about their only, qualifying measure for being in the World Cup shake-up at this point. Neither of them are going to do anything at the World Cup. It's a bit disappointing for both teams that they didn't even try and put on a show for the fans that were there or those people waiting outside the Victoria Secret store.
Like, I don't necessarily agree with that statement, because I just think it's it's a high-pressure game. It's a once-off. Like, I obviously watch a lot more Ireland than I do Denmark, but, Ireland... I think will add something to the World Cup if they do qualify. They not just to the atmosphere and whatever, because that's secondary to the actual competition. There's
what will they add?
There's something to be said about defensive football. Sure, it might not be great for the neutral to watch, but I actually enjoyed watching the match on Saturday. It was just every time Shane Duffy headed the ball back, just a little bit of joy built up inside me. It was.
I think this might be Stockholm syndrome at this point, that you're just completely enamored by Shane Duffy.
He's just what a man he is,
But I disagree that if you were to say from the footballing pure side of it that says, oh, this is a tactical masterclass from Martin O'Neill, that he's setting up the team to nullify the opposition.
I wouldn't say it's a tactical masterclass. I just think it's the most efficient way for Ireland to not lose.
But that surely is, I understand what you're saying.
That's sport.
But
they're not here to
not lose.
They're here to win.
I don't
not
think
to
that
entertain.
is sport. Yeah, but you're there to be the best that you can be. You're there to compete.
That is the best that Ireland can be. A
inherently.
defensive side that is tough to beat.
But they're not even good at that. It was more luck than anything else that they avoided defeat. Poor finishing,
in that match, ultimately, yes. But when you look at the Wales match, I think that was probably a better example of how good Ireland can be defensively. I can't think of any time. I can't think of any time Wales actually did threaten Ireland.
Yeah, but I suppose they can only beat what's in front of them, or they can only draw with what's in front of them, which is what they did mostly to get to this point. And the tie is alive. There's a sequel going to happen tomorrow night.
Yeah, that brings us nicely into the news, because that is the last playoff to be played in Europe. At this point, Ireland will host Denmark on Tuesday, and it's 0-0. It's still open. It's it can go either way, and I suppose really that's more entertaining than what we got with Croatia.
Yeah, very much
Greece.
so. Although there were some lovely goals in that Croatia match. The man get a hat trick in the first leg. It was a lovely game. And that wonderful photo of Luka Modric jumping 7 feet into the sky,
that was a fantastic photo, but again, that's just the
photograph. It's better than what came out of apart from the Victoria's Secrets joke. Nothing has come out of the Ireland Denmark match. There was a big fireworks display before the match, which was probably
that was pretty cool looking.
It's going to haunt the Danish if they don't qualify.
Yeah, I thought that was very odd at the time. It seemed very this is a party kind of, we're already at the World Cup. Just have to play these two games at the time. But, obviously if they do go through, we'll forget about it, but maybe it'll be the first thing we think of if Ireland can qualify on Tuesday.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know. They did their thing. They went there to get a draw. They got a draw. I just disagree that I don't think the game was particularly well played or well marshalled. I think our players were poor. I don't think the midfield performed at all, and I don't think Daryl Murphy on his own, like, no offense to the guy, he didn't have anything to play with. I haven't actually checked it, I probably should have, but I wonder how many touches he actually had of the ball during the whole time. He was on for what, 65, 70 minutes?
70 minutes roughly, yeah.
Yeah, like I wonder if he had more than 5 touches of the football during that time. Like he had no.
He did.
It'd be very few over that, I'd say.
Perhaps.
Like, and that all came from him chasing long balls, which he can't do. He's not a pacey striker. I think he challenged for a few headers. He may have won it a couple of times, but
like, it's away. It's an away match it's a high pressure match.
But they didn't even come up with a plan to try and combat the Danes. But
they did. They did though. Like they had a plan to nullify Christian Eriksen. What did Christian Eriksen do that whole match?
He had a couple of shots.
Long range efforts out of frustration.
Well, in fairness to the Danes, they adapted to the Irish setup fairly quickly, and they almost got pay dirt for it. Ireland set up in a kind of a 4-5-1 formation, and the Danes set up in a 4-3. Was it a 3? It was a 4-4-2 effectively, and then within a couple of minutes that had morphed into a 3-4-3 formation, where instead of having wingers, they actually played 3 centre forwards, and it really did work for them for a few minutes in that match, because Cyrus Christie, who was probably Ireland's best player on the night. It was only a few minutes though. Sorry?
It was only a few minutes though. Like, they created one of a very good opportunity out of it. Yeah, I don't know what happened to the Danes,
and maybe Ireland recovered a bit of their composure, but for those few minutes they completely took Ireland apart.
I just think Callum O'Dowda
Cyrus
dropped
Christie
deeper
had to come in and play an extra centre half. O'Dowda on the right wing didn't know how to defend, which is fair enough. He's not a right back, but he had to drop back there, and they kept overloading that side. You know,
I just think that was their only idea, though. It wasn't a case of I don't think it was a case of we've studied Ireland, this is their weakness. Like, I think it was a case of this is what we're good at. We're going to just try and do it and hope it works.
But like you're right. Neither team was very good. That's basically it. I don't know what's going to change. How do you think the match is going to go then on tomorrow night, Tuesday night?
I'm actually kind of optimistic, which is unusual for me. Really, normally I'm very pessimistic about these things. But like, I think with the introduction of David Meyler, and the fact that we are at home, I think it'll be very like the Serbia match, which, yes, Ireland lost, but I think it'll be a little different this time. Like, I think Ireland will be able to do it.
Who's Meyler going to come in for, do you think?
I think Meyler will come in for O'Dowda, and then it's just a question of, does Wes come in for someone else?
I don't think Wes is going to start.
Yeah, I'm not too sure that he will either.
Like, if he's not going to... Well, we'll see. He could go for wholesale changes. He did against Italy in the Euros.
Yeah, that might actually be to the benefit of the team, just because they just played a few days ago.
He could bring in Shane Long. He could bring in...
I think he'll bring in Shane Long as well, yeah.
Like, I wouldn't... If I were him now, I wouldn't be against necessarily moving to a 5 at the back to try and match the Denmark formation and play 2 up front and play Daryl Murphy and Shane Long up front. And actually, if you're playing long balls, at least have something you can aim at.
See, like, the problem that we noticed yesterday is we didn't know who would drop deeper. Saturday. I don't know why I think it was yesterday. But we didn't know who would drop deeper because like Hendrick and Archer couldn't play centre back. But you think that David Meyler could do that?
Yeah, he could.
If called upon.
He could. It is a possibility. So how do you think this match will go?
I think it'll be a similar enough match, but I think Ireland will be in the game more. Like, they'll create chances, and I think they'll take. I think they'll take one of the chances.
Who's going to go to the World Cup?
Ireland.
Ireland are going to go to the World Cup. Okay, you heard it here first. Ireland are going to qualify for the World Cup.
No need to watch the match now.
The other matches that we're going to come to the big one in a minute, but the other match that was decided was...
Yeah, we briefly mentioned Croatia there. They've got to the World Cup.
So they're there. Luka Modric, Rakitic, Serna, Mandzukic, all the ancient. They're not ancient, but they're in their 30s now. Most of those players. They're probably, this is going to be their last World Cup.
Yeah,
they've never performed at the World Cup since '98, so this is their chance, I suppose.
Yeah, and like they're such an odd team. They always underachieve. Like, they constantly have underachieved. Even at the Euros, it seemed like they should have at least got to the semi-finals, but they only got to the second round.
They've not been a good tournament team since '98.
Yeah,
like it's been poor for them. But they're there, and that's all they could do at this point.
Yeah, we'll see how the draw goes for them.
they beat a spirited Greece, who turns out that weren't very good at the end of the day. But they were playing against probably one of the worst draws they could have got.
Yeah.
As it turns out, probably was the worst draw they could have got, considering how well, or how poorly rather, all the other teams have performed in the playoffs thus far.
Yeah, and it just seems Greece aren't quite the defensive outfit they were in 2004.
No, that's long gone. Like, Socrates, the Borussia Dortmund player, did score, and he did play well, but you can't do a one-man centre back isn't the best idea to build a team's foundation on.
But in the other match, Switzerland have just crawled over the line.
That was appalling. Considering, we bigged up Switzerland before this match, how they won, what was it? They won 9 out of their 10 matches?
Yeah, 9 out of 10 matches, yeah.
Only going out on goal difference to Portugal. They went into the playoffs, favourites enough, they were confident enough with their draw that they got Northern Ireland, one of the, better draws. And then they did well in the first leg. They created chances.
Yeah, no, I think the two matches really highlighted just how Switzerland did come second in their group. Because, as you said, it was goal difference, and the thing that they really just lacked was that cutting edge to finish off Northern Ireland.
Yeah, which
it easily could have been 5 or 6-0 in both matches.
Yeah, but that's again testament to Northern Ireland's defensive ability that they were able to.
Yeah, McGovern was quite good in goals.
Yeah, and they're a solid unit. I would consider Northern Ireland's defensive performance much better than the Republic of Ireland's defensive performance.
I don't know about that.
I don't know. It seemed a lot more structured. Like they were new.
Structured, but it seemed like they were giving up a lot more chances than Ireland were.
Yeah, maybe, but that's probably the risk you had to take when they were chasing the match.
But even in the first leg, it seemed like poor finishing
they were at home in the first leg.
Yeah.
So they have to, they're meant to be on the front foot in the first
leg. I don't think Northern Ireland would agree with that, or Michael O'Neill.
Maybe not. What's next for Michael O'Neill now that Northern Ireland have gone out to that,
He's been linked with the United States job.
That would be an interesting. I know Big Sam has put himself forward for that as well.
Yeah. And then there's the Scotland job as well.
If I were him, I'd go for the United States over Scotland. I know he lived in Scotland, or I think he still
lives in Scotland. Yeah, he lives in Edinburgh, I think.
And he had, most of his playing career was spent up there. Was it Dundee he was at during the 80s, and after he left Newcastle. He likes the country. Obviously, his family's over there, but the USA is such a tempting prospect because someone like Michael O'Neill, who has, first and foremost, when he took the Northern Ireland job, he got his feet under the table very quickly by, trying to arrange for the majority of the players that are available to Northern Ireland to declare for Northern Ireland and not be, swayed away by the Republic of Ireland like James McLean or Darren Gibson was. So he did that first and foremost. Then he got his best players back into the squad and put them back playing. He got Johnny Evans, players like this. And then he went and he scoured all the divisions looking for any players that could fit into the system as the best player. That's, Will Greggs, plays in League One most of the time. He barely plays the championship when he's playing for a championship team. But he comes in and he does a job for them.
Yeah, but I how does that relate to it? I just think if the
United States, I think, in a much bigger sense, is the same job. You've seen already, Pulisic, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, the Borussia Dortmund striker, could easily be playing for Germany, and he's declared for the United States. That was something Jurgen Klinsmann went after early on to try and get all these, players who could have an interest in the United States to actually declare for them, like foreign nationals born abroad who have US parents, things like that. But also, finding players in the US system that may not be picked out yet. There is actually, we can say what we want about Major League Soccer, but there's a lot of Americans playing in Major League Soccer. And a lot of them probably have untapped potential as athletes. You saw in the last World Cup when the United States did qualify, a lot of those players in the squad were MLS players. And they were, a bit of a surprise team. They had so much pace and athleticism.
Yeah, they did Portugal, they qualified from the group of Portugal.
Yeah.
They generally do show up at the World Cup in recent years anyway.
Yeah, but just their management at the moment, Bruce Arena has done a horrible job.
Yeah, obviously they won't be showing up at this World Cup.
Yeah. Klinsmann had his time but it kind of just faded out for him near the end. But I think Michael O'Neill would be a better choice than Big Sam. Like, Big Sam would probably give them big game defensive modes, and they probably would get a result here or there against one of the bigger teams in the world. But I don't think it would be good for the long-term success of the international game over there. I think Michael O'Neill will be a long-term appointment.
Yeah, just look at Big Sam at the youth level as well, or at club level. Like, just think of who he brings in from the youth academy. Like, I can't think of any.
No, he seldom if ever did.
Like, and like that's what America needs. They need someone to get in at the grassroots level.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he would be a good appointment for America at all, really.
No, but he is a name, and that's the kind of thing relating to it.
That might be enough to keep them happy, though.
The final playoff match
that we've yet to discuss, anyway.
That we have to discuss
is Italy against Sweden.
Now we might move this into the topic of the show.
Yeah, it would be a good transition.
It would be a good transition to the topic of the show. If you want to take it away, Declan.
Giorgio Chiellini, is that how you pronounce the first name?
Yeah, Giorgio.
He had this quote, Guardiolianism ruined a generation of defenders. They can organise themselves, but they don't know how to mark a forward. We must stay away from tiki-taka, it's not in our DNA. We, obviously referring to the Italian national team. This is another just embarrassing performance from Italy again. They're going to miss out on the World Cup after losing to Sweden 1-0 on aggregate. Why is this the case? Just why are they so bad?
Well, I think the Italian media are going to blame the manager.
That seems like the obvious.
Yeah, he's gone. Chiellini preempted all of this by blaming Guardiolaism and the way that football has evolved away from the way it was when he started his career, when Italy won the World Cup. It was basically when he came through first. Afterwards, it's, Italy, they don't know how they want to play. I know we discussed this before off air, that Italy seemed to have a way, and Conte was doing it as well previously to this current manager, and it's a hangover coming back for years, that Italy don't seem to have a way to transition from midfield to attack. They're entirely bypassing the forward half of the midfield. Like, we can talk about Marco Verratti, and I don't think he's done it at the Italian level yet, at the international level yet. The defence is rock solid, but it's aged now. Buffon and the BBC.
Yeah, you think this is probably the end of Buffon at Italy now. Donnarumma will step up.
Yeah.
But even then, like, just the second leg is just after finishing when at the time of recording. And it seemed like the back three almost hindered this side in a way. Like, just having three players stay back, because the two wing backs are obviously pushed up, but I think if they played a back four, the two full backs still would have pushed very high up the pitch because of the manner of this match. And Bonucci was injured in the first half but continued on playing. And he's in poor form anyway. Like, it just seemed odd to not play Insigne at all.
Yeah, it's as if there's infighting there. It could be a north-south thing as well in Italy that often crops up. He's a Napoli player, Insigne. So maybe he doesn't get on with the other players playing for the northern teams. I think you're right that the defence probably stifled them to an extent, certainly in the first leg, and with the injury in the second leg probably did as well, that they're playing very deep because they're aged. They don't have the pace they once did, so you're having a huge gap between where the fullbacks are and where the defenders are, so they're having to cover extra ground. The midfield is dropping deeper to stay in line with the defence, and then you have a big gap to where the strikers are, and where you, like you say, a player like Insigne could drop in there and do very well, but they're not doing that. They seem to be completely disjointed in midfield. I don't think they've evolved from the 2006 World Cup team. I think Pirlo and players of that ilk, De Rossi and other players that have been there in the World Cup era that were playing until the last few years for the Italian team, kind of papered over the cracks. They knew what to do, and they carried the team with them and set up chances for subpar Italian strikers. And now the likes of Graziano Pelle are gone and replaced with actually high quality strikers.
Yeah, the strikers they have in Italy at the moment are just unreal, really. Like, they're very, like, they have the likes of Andrea Bellotti, who's up and coming, he's doing very well at Torino. They have Ciro Immobile, who's just banging them in every week at Lazio. They have even someone like Mario Balotelli, who's doing very well at Nice.
Can't get into the squad.
Yeah, exactly. And then like there's Insigne as well, as we said. Like that Napoli team is just tearing apart defenses in Serie A.
But they don't have a midfield to connect it all up. And as you said, the defence is aging. They've not adapted to the modern game. They were the first to play three at the back, saying that in the most recent era of football. But I think the players that they have seem to, they cannot no longer they can't support that formation anymore. They've got too old to do it. They don't have the technical players through midfield. Marquisio isn't what he used to be. Montevideo isn't there anymore. The Italian midfielder, the famous midfielders that they used to produce, the runners, the registas,
Pirlo's gone.
They're gone. Like, I don't think Verratti's done it at international level. I've said it before. I'll say it again. He's a show player. He's not done it when it counts. And there's no one else in that midfield who can actually.
Well, there's no one else in that midfield that's being played. But like Jorginho finally was given his first start in this second leg, and he was by far the best midfielder. Like he tried. Like not everything he tried did come off, but sometimes when it did come off, like it created their best chances in that match.
But you can't expect one player on his full international debut to suddenly click in with the rest of the team and fix everything. It's it's unfair on the player. He should have been brought in much earlier.
Yeah, that's true.
But it was a case of too little, too late when it came to that. Like they couldn't.
Oh, he definitely should have been in the time
great,
before that. Like. And yeah, as you said, Sweden aren't great either. Like they're up and coming.
They are up and coming. They did well in the under-21 Euros several years ago. They've got rid of Zlatan now. They're bringing through younger players. They still have a few of the old heads still there to give them a bit of experience. But player by player, pound for pound, they're not as good as their other like Denmark have a better player for player squad than them. But Sweden are there now, and Denmark still have to play a qualifier.
Yeah, and like Norway are just getting worse and worse as well, it seems. It's an odd time for Scandinavia.
There might be a bit of decline in Scandinavian football, but at the same time, if these teams still qualify for the World Cup, what decline is there?
Yeah, that's true. And the big question, I think, for Sweden is, will Zlatan come back?
I don't think he will. He did come out and say whether Sweden reached the World Cup or not, he's not going to come back, which I think is a fair enough statement. I don't think he would benefit the squad if he went.
Yeah, I don't think he would either.
He's a fantastic player, but you saw in the Euros last year, he became the focal point, and he was like, I remember in some of the matches last year, he was dropping well into defensive midfield trying to get the ball.
Yeah.
And when he's playing centre forward, there's no point in him being back in the centre circle.
Yeah, obviously, you really need to just play two up front when you're playing Zlatan.
Yeah, you do at this stage. And
that just isn't what Sweden want to do. Like they don't want to make a team around him anymore.
Yeah, so it'd be best for Sweden, I think, if he sits this one out.
Yeah, he was at the match on Friday. It was interesting.
Watching as a fan.
Yeah, it seemed like he was maybe just seeing what his team could look like in the World Cup.
Yeah. He'll have to get used to that. That's his future right there.
And is there any other thoughts on Italy?
I think they need to take a big, long look at themselves. I think the manager is gone.
Yeah.
I think a lot of these players are going to be retired. Buffon is now done, as far as I know.
Yeah, you can see some of the defenders retiring, like Barzagli.
Yeah, he's 36 or something.
Possibly Chiellini.
His 30s. Bonucci will probably stay on. He's a little bit younger. Probably be the new captain. They need to bring in this new blood. Like maybe they'll get you'll finally get your wish, and Carlo Ancelotti will go and take over at Italy.
Oh yes, hopefully. Like it seems like a match made in heaven. We move into the weekend preview. There's not a lot going on this weekend, but what is going on is very high profile. In Spain, Real hosts Atletico in the Madrid derby on Saturday evening. How do you think that'll go?
I think it benefits Atletico that it's at the Bernabeu and not at Wanda Stadium. Atletico, if you don't know, haven't lost a league match this season. They're still undefeated in the league. They are 8 points adrift to Barcelona, though. and Real Madrid are level on points with them, I think. And Zidane will probably come into a lot of pressure if they don't win, or indeed if they lose this match to Atletico this weekend. I think
But do you think that they can lose this match? Like, do you think it's possible that Real will lose to Atletico?
Absolutely possible. But
Atletico don't have the best record in the Bernabeu.
No, they have a terrible record against Real Madrid in general, especially important matches. They do not perform well. But in current form, Real Madrid have played abysmally in the league. They haven't been able to cope. Reactive coaches seem to be getting the better of Zidane at the moment. Coaches who are taking the time to work out a strategy and tactics that are different to what Real Madrid normally play against, and that's basically something that Diego Simeone loves doing. And if he gets his players right into the right mindset, like a lot of them have had, they played international friendlies maybe this week, or they had it off entirely, so there'll be a lot of them fresh and ready to go. Real Madrid, conversely, have issues in the team with injuries, and they're still lacking a few players match sharpness, so they could come into this as underdogs almost. And Zidane has his job almost on the line. I think he's got a bit of being his Zinedine Zidane. He's got a bit of capital in the Bernabeu to waste before he gets sacked. But in previous seasons, a start like this at Real Madrid has led to the manager eventually getting sacked.
Like, if this was Rafa Benitez, he'd be gone, I think.
Yeah. But if this was almost all managers in recent times, Carlo was sacked for a similar type of start. It wasn't until later on in the season. But
winning back-to-back Champions Leagues as well does kind of help.
It does, but it didn't work for Carlo. If you were, Vicente Del Bosque was sacked.
He only won one Champions League.
Fabio Capello won the league and was sacked.
It's a cruel job being Real Madrid manager. Really.
It is, especially if there's a presidential election coming up.
Yeah.
There isn't at the moment, but. You have to stay on top. Florentino Perez has to stay on top of all of his employees, and Zinedine Zidane being the most high profile of his direct appointments.
Yeah, it's almost just like, who would want to take the Real Madrid job if Zinedine Zidane's getting sacked after 6 months after winning a second Champions League in a row? Like,
yeah, it's really quite abysmal. You think about it, it's a cruel game as football, especially as a Real Madrid manager, and then you look across the down at Barcelona, they're great rivals, and you could lose league campaigns and you'd still keep their manager on. They're much more loyal to their appointees.
Yeah, and like Gareth Bale has apparently been put up for sale as well this week. Another injury for him.
That's not. Maybe Manchester United will finally get their man.
Yeah, Mourinho was very open about his need for Gareth Bale over the summer.
Well, I don't see Mourinho being there next summer to make that decision.
I think Ed Woodward will make the decision anyway at this point.
Probably.
Just knowing what he's like. But speaking of the Premier League teams, the big Premier League game of the weekend is Arsenal against Tottenham, North London derby, Saturday afternoon. And now Mike Dean has been appointed referee for this match.
Mike Dean is always appointed referee for Arsenal matches.
So just how many penalties will Arsenal concede in this match?
Penalties, I would say conservatively one.
Harry
just
Kane
the one,
is
going
it?
to be back for this match, which is going to elate most Spurs fans and people who have them in their fantasy teams.
I think Hugo Lloris is expected to be back as well, although I think it's a bit more touch and go.
A full Spurs side will play against Arsenal, who yesterday lost Giroud to a thigh injury, I want to say.
Oh, did he get injured?
He got injured there playing for France, and it just gets better for Arsenal, really.
Well, at least Giroud isn't a starter, but he is a good option off the bench.
He is. And don't worry, also said this week that he's 100% with Arsenal. So that's
something
for the Spurs players to fear.
So who do you think will win this match? It's on the Emirates.
I reckon, because it's a derby, you can almost throw form out the window, because even when... Was it last season?
Oh, yeah, definitely in this one.
Last season... It was Francis Coughlin, I know it was at White Hart Lane, but Francis Coughlin was sent off and Spurs...
That was 2 seasons ago.
But it's not a draw, 2-2 draw.
It was a 2-2 draw 2 seasons ago. It seemed like Tottenham were going to destroy Arsenal, but then just finished a draw in the end.
And how did the matches go last season?
Last season was the last derby, White Hart Lane, so Tottenham just were fairly comfortable. But the match at the Emirates was very cagey. Didn't neither side really controlled the game. It was 1-1, I think. Tottenham got a penalty.
That's kind of how I think it's going. I think
it could just be a carbon copy of last season's match, actually, now that I think about it.
I don't necessarily think it's going to be a carbon copy. I think Spurs are going to be better than they were last season, but at the same time, Arsene Wenger's had a few games against Pochettino now to try and work him out. And Pochettino he always, when he plays against Arsenal, he plays this very high pressure game where he tries to pin Arsenal in deep. Arsenal weren't playing 5 at the back then, so I see it being a bit different.
But do you think they will play back 5 at the back?
Oh, I think so, and I think they'll try and use that to combat the Spurs press by having more bodies in there to try and relieve some pressure and give another passing option out. So I give Spurs the edge for this, but Arsenal played well against Man City, who are the best team in the league. They did lose 3-1, but they played well. Yeah,
they still were probably one of the better sides Man City have faced this season.
Yeah, they gave Man City a few problems, so it was certainly more than a lot of teams have. So I would give Spurs the edge because they're in form and they just are better than Arsenal at this moment in time. But Arsenal could put in a performance to scrape a draw on that one.
Yeah, I think a draw is just the most likely outcome because it's the first derby of the season. It seems like that's always a draw, or there's always one draw between these two in the season.
As you said, it's very cagey, though, these matches usually.
And I think the fact that it's not it was a 12 o'clock kickoff last year as well in the Emirates, and it seemed like the atmosphere was just dead because of it.
Yeah.
And that just didn't help the match at all. It felt very deflated the whole 90 minutes. That could be the case again.
There is an advantage, with the exception of Christian Eriksen, who has to play tomorrow night. The rest of the team should be relatively rested.
Yeah, that's always kind of the advantage coming out of this international break every couple of years, that most of the players are well rested by the time the games come back around in the league.
So a Saturday afternoon match mightn't be the worst.
Yeah.
Or mightn't be as bad as one normally would have one after a European, a Champions League week or something like that.
Yeah, and Arsenal's form in November is notoriously terrible. So that's another factor.
Always maybe if you want to gamble on something like this, maybe that's something to take into account.
Plus I think it's the worst points per game in any month that Arsenal have under Wenger or something like that. Some stat like that kind of was big last year.
Oh, Arsenal.
Yeah, they're so cyclical. It's fascinating, really.
Yeah, it just doesn't change. They're all Arsenal fans are already, content. They're already set their mind up on maybe getting 4th, if not 5th or 6th, and trying their luck in the Europa League and the FA Cup. And that
I suppose the Europa League is something different for them this year.
Yeah, gives them an option on the outside. Spurs, on the other hand, it's complete opposite. They're in the Champions League knockout stages.
Yeah, and they're doing very well. They've got the win over Dortmund and Real Madrid. That's more than what Arsenal have done really in recent years in the Champions League.
Exactly, they're punching above their weight now, Spurs, in European football. So.
It's an odd power shift that I don't know how long it will stay like this. I suppose as long as Pochettino is at Tottenham, maybe,
or as long as Wenger's still at Arsenal.
But yeah, that's maybe more of a topic of the show that we could discuss maybe next week, depending on how the result goes. But I think that's...
We'll see. Whether Pochettino was the worst manager ever, or he's the best manager ever, and Wenger's the worst manager ever. That'll be the topic. That's a little preview for you for our topic of the show next week.
Yeah, that's how well we plan ahead. But I think that will do us for this week. We're going to bring the show to a close. Thank you for listening, and please do get in touch if you've any questions on any of the big leagues or just any topic of the show ideas. We're welcome to ideas. You can email us at thetfpod@gmail.com, and you can follow us on social media at thetfpod. Follow us individually. I'm at cheesyheartpun, HRTE. I realise I should probably say.
They know it.
Hopefully they know it. Andrew, you're at Kanban27. And please remember to subscribe, rate, and review on the platform of your choice. It really helps us out. And that just leaves me to Andrew to say goodbye.
Au revoir.
It's goodbye from me.